Good evening. Welcome to the March 20th meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. This meeting is being held virtually via Zoom video conference and is also being broadcast by FCTV on cable channel 9. As this meeting is being recorded by Zoom and broadcast by FCTV, please be cognizant of what you say and how you say it, what can be seen and heard in your background. We have 5 commissioners tonight. We're missing 1, but we have a quorum. We're moving forward. Just a reminder that for commenting, I'll call on each of you in turn so we don't trip over each other, and that all votes have to be done by roll call. So when I call your name, state your name and your vote, even if you've made the motion or the second. To our public participants, at any time during this meeting, you may enter any comments or questions via the chat function. At the appropriate time, they will be read into the record. If you'd like to be heard on a specific hearing, let us know via the chat function. Then at the appropriate time, I will call for public comment. When you are selected, you'll be moved into the hearing as a participant. As such, you must have your video enabled, be succinct, and respectful of others. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Regarding RDAs, under a request for determination of applicability, the applicant is asking the Commission to determine if the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and/or the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw apply to their proposed project. A negative determination is that the provisions of the Act and/or the bylaw do not apply. Therefore, the project may proceed as proposed. However, a positive determination means that the provisions of the Act and/or the bylaw do in fact apply and/or may require some conditions. Therefore, the project would require a notice of intent application. So as an applicant, you want to hear a negative determination. For the benefit of anyone waiting for a particular hearing tonight, and so that you're not waiting unnecessarily, the following hearings are expected to be continued: 24 Willis Lane, Cedar Lake, and 110 Ransom Road. With all that said, first up, vote minutes, February 28, 2024. Anyone?
Was this for the voting?
Yes.
Okay, I'll move to accept the minutes as presented to us.
Bird second.
All right. Is my audio okay? You guys hear me okay?
Yep.
I can hear you.
So we have a motion and a second on the table to accept the minutes as submitted. Any questions or comments? We're voting to accept the minutes of February 28. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury.
Arlo Hawks eye.
Steve.
Abstain, didn't attend.
All right. We have 4 for, 1 abstention. We have accepted the minutes as submitted. Next up is the vote minutes of March 6, 2024.
I have a correction.
Okay.
Actually, is Kristen not here? I kind of like the correction. It was, you announced that there's a new committee that's been established in case people are interested, and it's a fresh pond committee. It's not a firewater committee.
Oh. Oops.
That's on page 8, Jen.
Okay, nope, but Kristen's in. She heard you.
Okay.
But I'll make sure it gets corrected.
But I thought the composition of a firewater committee might prove to be interesting. But it's false. It's not a firewater committee. It's a fresh pond committee.
All right.
So with that correction, are you doing I'm moving the minutes?
I am, Courtney. I'm moving to accept the minutes with that correction and any other corrections that people might have.
Bird second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the minutes as amended. Any other questions or comments? All right, we're voting to accept the minutes. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Steve.
Abstain again, sir.
All right, we have accepted the minutes of March 6th with a vote of 4-1. Let's see. Next up, request for a continuance for determination of applicability. Eileen Meany, 30 Marshview Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to repair the existing deck, platform, and railings, and to reconstruct the stairs in accordance with state building code. Ms. Bergeron.
The applicant has requested a continuance until April 17th.
So moved.
Bird
Gladfelter,
second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this request until April 17th. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting for the continuance. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until April 17th. Next up are requests for continuance under notice of intent. First up, Sarah Tirano Flores, Nutter, McLennan and Fish, LLP, 24 Willis Lane, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to reconstruct an existing licensed dock and to remove a timber wave break. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until April 24th.
Bird so move.
Gladfelter, second.
There a reason for this? It's only like the 27th continuance. I exaggerate.
Is
but not
additional
much.
time to prepare and submit a shellfish report. Remember, the board had requested the shellfish survey because they are greatly elongating the dock. So it really is just changing that footprint. So the staff had recommended a shellfish survey.
Yeah, okay. We have a motion and a second to continue this until April 24th. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting for the continuance. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until April 24th. Next up, Joyce Bach, Friends of Cedar Lake, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to conduct invasive species management of Cedar Lake. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until April 17th. They received several Division of Marine Fishery comments that they need to work through and provide a response to.
So move.
Gladfelter, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this until April 17th. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting on the continuance. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until April 17th. Next up, Ciari Hubru, trustee, Hubru Trust, 110 Ransom Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to raise, R-A-Z-E, an existing single-family dwelling and construct a new single-family dwelling, install a new Title V sewage disposal system, and install mitigation plantings. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this applicant is requesting a continuance until March 27th. Cape and Islands dropped off the revised plans today.
You won't be here for that.
No, I will not. I will not be here for the next two meetings, but Alyssa will be here with Fallon supporting.
All right.
What date was it?
March 27th, Courtney.
So moved.
Bird second.
All All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this until March 27th. Questions or comments? We're voting for the continuance. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Harlow Hawks Eye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until 3/27. Excuse me. Next up, request for determination of applicability. 14 Willis Lane Realty Trust, 14 Willis Lane, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to install a spa. Ms. Bergeron.
Staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed, and this project is solely located in an AE flood zone.
Harlow Hawks so moved.
Gladfelter, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Harlow Hawks Eye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, KFN Hillside Nominee Trust, 24 Willis Lane, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to nourish the beach from an upland access point. Ms. Bergeron.
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Harlow
Bird, so
Hawks,
moved.
Harlow Hawks second.
I have a couple questions. Why isn't this a notice?
So the sand in question is part of the comprehensive dredge permit. They are just looking for an alternate route to bring that sand to the beach.
Fair enough. We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Harlow Hawks Eye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Kathleen Scadden, 32 Barneck Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to reconstruct 2 exterior walls, the roof and a rooftop deck. Ms. Bergeron.
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed. We
Bird,
do
so
have the
moved.
applicant's representative here to say a few words.
All right,
Bird, so moved.
Patton, second.
Mr. Chairman, I'm promoting Tom Bunker up to say, to address the board.
He really wants to say something at this point?
It has to do with a condition that the staff had in the staff report. When we went on site, we noticed that mitigation from a previous RDA was missing. And we can utilize this RDA as a mechanism to allow the planting at this point from the expired RDA, considering that it's a violation of the previous permitting. Staff recommends that the board require the plantings be done prior to the proposed construction, and Tom is here to advocate for his client for the contrary.
And just to add, the previous project was a 2016 project, so it has been 8 years.
It was yes, for the record, my name is Tom Bunker. It was a 2016 project. There's no disputing that. And Kathy Scadden, shortly after that, there's a letter I sent over to the Conservation Department saying that she hadn't wanted to put that in yet because they have been, since doing that work was to enlarge a deck and change the location of the stairs, and this work is to do some renovation work on the project, which does not require any planting. But they have been considering this job in phases, did not take the whole thing on at once, but considering it in phases, and she never wanted to put the planting in. put it in a location where it would be in the way of workers. And it has gotten to be quite a while, but this is the point where they're doing this work, and I understand the condition that the planting be done first, but I just ask if possibly condition rather that a bond could be posted for the planting. I mean, I believe, I know some people, stretch out planting times. There wasn't done. I'm just asking it rather than wait till the planting is done before starting work, which she doesn't want to do because then that could easily get damaged. The planting could get damaged by the workers, materials that post a bond, and I'm confident that the planting will get done. At the appropriate time. They want to, do the work this spring and get it done, and then get the planting done.
And Tom, is the planting not going to be an appropriate time in the summer because it's too hot to plant? Are we going to be waiting until the fall or next spring?
Certainly not next spring. I hope not fall. The contractor called me. They want to get in and do the work. And planting can be done with irrigation. They'd say it has to be done as soon as the work is done, and then if not, anything has to be replanted in the fall if it doesn't survive. But that's just the request right now. Is a little early in the season for planting, and they weren't considering getting a contractor lined up to do the work, and it would just push it out. Push it further into the future and probably not get done. And that was just my request, if we could do it based on a bond rather than doing the planting beforehand.
Jamie, the homeowner has their hand raised. I'm promoting.
Yeah, so do I. When was the planting supposed to be done originally?
2016. There was a 2016 RDA. Late, probably spring of 2017, maybe. I can't remember exactly when the work was done, but it's, that age of a project.
So now we want to put it off again. Well, they just didn't want to do it in 16 because they knew this project was coming up and they didn't want to damage them, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Well, if they had installed them in 17, the plants would have been 7 years old. They would have been healthy, larger.
I was being
much stronger.
facetious.
I'm promoting the property owner, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Big bond do you anticipate? Well, let me ask you this, what's the cost of the project to plant? Do you have an estimate?
What was that, Courtney? I'm sorry, we're going in and out.
So what is the cost to do the planting? Do they have an estimate?
No, they have not provided an estimate yet.
So
I think at the time in 2016 or 17, she had talked with a landscaper, I think Clover, about it to get an estimate, but that would be different now.
I would recommend that you get 3 estimates and we take a.
Whoa. Let's deal with what we have in front of us first.
Can I say something?
Say,
Yes?
Amy?
Can I be heard? Can I talk?
Jamie, we're having trouble hearing you. Sorry.
Oh,
Miss Gadden, not you, Miss Gadden, the chairman. You may speak, Miss Gadden.
hi, and everyone can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you
Okay.
just fine.
Well, we did get a landscape plan to do all the mitigation very soon after that deck was finished. But then we didn't think that the plan that was given to us, and I can't remember the name of the landscape architect, but it just didn't seem to fulfill the requirements of mitigation. So then we went back and forth with her many times. And then while we were doing that, we started the planning for this new addition, not addition, but the replacement of the windows underneath a roof that was leaking. So it took us a while to figure out how to change, to fix the roof. And then we found out that the foundation, not the foundation, but the structure that would support the roof was not strong enough to support any roof. And then there's a deck on top of that. So it took forever. And then COVID got in the way. And we had a lot of trouble communicating with anybody during that time. And we were staying down there at the time. So then we got a cost estimate to replace the windows. We had some windows that were picture windows that were fogged up in the middle. So we knew that had to go. And then the windows were leaking. And so then we got a bid and it was so expensive, we had to back down on that. So I think after COVID, we started getting geared up again for this, and then the prices just were outrageous. So it has taken us forever to figure out what to do to support the roof and change the windows. So if you look in your file, you may see we tried to call and postpone things, but there was no answer. And I don't know if I put anything in writing, but I might have.
So you're blaming the town because you called, Ms. Gadden? Well, you did not send us an email. You did not reach out to us asking for an extension. And as far as COVID goes, the town staff were working in the town hall building and were readily available by phone call and email.
Well, I'm not really trying to blame anybody. I'm just telling you that this was a very challenging project. It was a very costly project, and it just got put off. I'm really not blaming anybody. I'm just saying COVID did a little interruption for the whole country. So that happened here too.
Yes, but it was 4 years between 2016 and 2020 when the pandemic hit.
We've been planning.
And the RDA was good for 3 years. And between 2016 and 2019, we do not have any documentation that you attempted to contact the town.
Well, I'm sorry then, but I am not blaming you. I'm just saying this was a challenging project and we really don't know all the regulations and maybe we should have known more. But I really am asking for a bond to be put up. And in the meantime, we'll get an updated landscape plan so that immediately after construction is complete, we can plant. I'm
The
inviting
staff's
everyone.
recommendation stands, Mr. Chairman. We
Can I
would
clarify that, please?
the staff recommendation is to allow the project to go forward with the plantings installed prior to us signing a building permit for the proposed work. So the proposed work
Or it could
can
become an
move
enforcement
forward,
order.
but the plantings should be installed prior to the plantings. We're recommending the plantings be installed prior to the staff signing the building permit. That is our recommendation.
And
Okay. All right.
And we have a
Is there-
motion and a second on the table, right, Jamie?
We do. Courtney made the motion, Steve seconded it, and that included that condition.
Be done before the construction,
Sorry?
that the planting be done before the construction starts.
Correct.
Obviously, I'd just like to probably put a little more consideration into it, but I understand that it's been a while. They wouldn't be able to get the planting in for a month anyway, just to line somebody up to get it done. And in that month, they could, be getting some of the work done. So it's really not going to delay the planting that much, and you'll have a bond to make sure it gets done.
Well, Tom, they had 8 years to get that done. So what kind of assurance do we have now? We don't. So they finished the deck. That came out nice. Why not the mitigation?
You'd have the bond.
Yeah. All right, the motion and the second on the table is to accept staff's recommendation, which is a -3 and a -2, with the condition that the mitigation plantings be completed prior to signing off on the building permit. Did I say that correctly, Ms. Lincoln?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from commissioners? All right. We're voting on the motion in the second that's on the table. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation of the -3 and the -2 with the condition of the mitigation plantings done before signing off on the building permit. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Ms. Scadden.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Andrea and Dennis Harrington, 23 Cutty Sark Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to upgrade the existing sewage disposal system to Title V standards. Ms. Bergeron.
Staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed, and this RDA is solely located in an AE flood zone.
Bird so moved.
Gladfelter, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, 107 Falmouth Heights Road Realty Trust, 107 Falmouth Heights Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to try, fill and abandon, or to remove the existing cesspool and install a new Title V sewage disposal system. Ms. Bergeron.
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird so moved.
Patton, second.
We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Charles M. Crane, Hinckley Road, map and parcel ID is 51-01-037-003A and 51A-037-001A, Woods Hole Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to remove sand and regrade the road. Is that a typo? Is Hinckley Road and Woods Hole Road? That should have been just Woods Hole, Mass, I assume.
Yes.
All right, close enough. Ms. Bergeron.
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed. I do know that Mr. Crane is here to address the board, but I have no conditions to speak of.
Mr. Crane, if you would like to address the board, can you raise your hand? Use the hand raise function. I think he is all set, Mr. Chairman.
Make a
All
motion
right.
to accept staff's recommendation. Patton.
Gladfelter, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up are continued requests for determination of applicability. First one has been previously continued. Next up, Thomas S. Crane, 2000 Revocable Trust, Brewer Crane Family Trust, 37 Hinckley Road, Woods Hole, Mass. For permission to conduct repairs and maintenance of the road, seawall, and pier, install dock lighting, manage invasives, and restore disturbed areas of natural vegetation, restore a dune, and conduct beach maintenance. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird so move.
Wait 1 second, Mr. Chairman, just a correction, the dune's been taken out of that, correct, Alyssa?
Yes.
The dune's been taken out of that.
there's a lot of work here for RDA. You guys are okay with
Mr.
that?
Crane has been conducting these types of minor maintenance on the property for several years under an RDA. We did have a discussion with them. He will be filing a notice of intent for the establishment of a dune, continued maintenance work on the beach, and possibly some invasive ivy work on the property. And we do have written confirmation that he will be seeking that notice of intent.
All right. Courtney made a motion. Does that still stand?
Yep.
I'll second it.
All
You need a
right.
second?
Yes.
Right.
We now have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Steve,
Patton, aye.
it is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up are requests for a hearing under a notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. And as a reminder, public commenting is limited to 3 minutes. So I encourage you to stay within the purview of this board, which are the rules and regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw, and how they pertain to a particular application. The chair reserves the right to stop any commenting that is disparaging or inconsequential to the hearing. First up, James McLaughlin, Town of Falmouth, 589 Courier Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to repave the existing parking lot, install green infrastructure and stormwater drainage, and install native plantings. Jen,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I promoted Jordan Moore up from APCC and Amy Ball and Michelle West from Horsley and Witten Group to present the project. Is there anyone else from the project team am I promoting up? Nope. Okay, excellent.
I don't think so.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jen, and thanks to the commission. I'm just going to share my few slides quickly before Horsley Witten walks through the designs for the boat ramp on Ashumet Pond. So let me just bring those up quickly. I'm not sure if you are seeing the presenter view here or not.
Yes, we are, Jordan. Thank you.
Okay. Presenter, so you want to see the, is this better?
It looks good, Jordan.
No, it was fine.
The other way.
Oh,
Mine.
was it
Yeah.
better the other way? Sorry. Okay. So I just wanted to give a brief introduction to the project. This is a regional project that we've been working with many partners on. Horsley Witten Group has acted as our subcontractor engineering firm for the designs on several boat ramp projects over the last, I guess, 3 years, not quite 3 years, 2.5. And Ashumet Pond is one of the projects that we took through 75% designs and working through permitting this spring. Just wanted to give a quick background. I know probably all of us are fairly familiar with the problem of stormwater runoff into our embayments, but Ashumet is no exception. You know, stormwater can contribute to nutrient and bacterial contamination in our ponds. And one of the reasons that we decided to focus on public boat ramps in particular across Cape was because these tend to be areas of direct discharge with very little to no treatment of the stormwater. Some of the short-term goals of our project have been to develop concept designs for 20 public boat ramps across Cape Cod. And then advance several of those through design and permitting to hopefully align for future construction. Our long-term goals, of course, are to improve water quality in the adjacent water body and reduce shellfish bed and beach closures if they've been, occurring in the nearby area. This project has been funded through a EPA Southeast New England program watershed grant and a CZM Coastal Habitat and Water Quality grant, as well as some private APCC Foundation funds. There were lots of partners involved in the project, and I just want to acknowledge there are many towns, including the Falmouth staff and the Friends of Ashumet Pond have attended a lot of the design review meetings and have been very helpful and supportive in the project. We've also worked with the Office of Fishing and Boating Access, as this site is primarily state-owned. And just a quick summary on sort of timeline here. We've completed the 75% designs for Ashumet Pond. That's our sort of present scope right now. That's, we have that funding secured. Final design and construction for this site, we are hoping to secure through additional grant applications and proposals this spring. And that's all I have. So I will stop share and let Horsley Witten take it over from there.
Thank you.
All right. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Excellent. It is my pleasure to be in front of you tonight. It's been a while. I see some familiar faces, but I'm Michelle West. I am a water resources engineer at Horsley Witten Group and the project manager for this project. And with me, kind of tag teaming on this presentation will be Amy Ball, the senior ecologist for our project. All right. Let me make sure this works here. Oh.
Michelle, one question. Jamie, do you see her presentation?
I do now, yes. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Oh, did it just pop up?
Yeah, it was a delay.
Okay, sorry about that.
No worries.
All right, just Jordan had already touched on our goal, but just to reiterate that the true goal of this project is to manage stormwater from the impervious surfaces at this site to improve water quality and habitat for the pond. That is our main goal, using green stormwater infrastructure. All right, so just a brief review of the existing conditions. Outlined in pink is the drainage area as it is today. The some of Sandwich Road runoff from that area flows down the driveway all the way through the parking lot and down the boat ramp straight into the pond. It's graded to direct all of the stormwater in that direction. It's 1.5 acres and more than half of that is impervious or hard surfaces. And Amy will go through the resource areas for us.
Sure. Hi. For the record, Amy Ball, senior ecologist with the Horsley Witten Group. So we have a number of resource areas that are all associated with the Ashumet Pond. There's the pond itself, which is land underwater. There's the bank of the pond, which is established roughly as an ordinary high water, a mean annual high water. And then the two buffer zones that are shown in red, which is your 0 to 75 foot local notice to buffer and the 100-foot buffer to the pond. Do we have another slide of this? But we also have, there we go, natural heritage. An indigenous species program has some mapped priority and estimated habitat. We've got 3 species out there, 2 plants. One is a special concern pondshore smartweed, and the other is a threatened dwarf bulrush. And then 1 freshwater mussel, which is the tidewater mucket, which is clearly a misnomer. So we have also applied for a MESA project review with the Natural Heritage Program, and we'll not hear back from them until on or before April 5th. That was our due date from the program. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but we recognize that we probably cannot close the hearing tonight because we need to wait for their input. Next.
All right. So moving forward into proposed conditions, what we're trying to do is break up the stormwater and try to manage it in different places kind of along the way. So, and I should have pointed out earlier that this first part of the driveway is actually within town-owned property, and the parking lot and the boat ramp is under state ownership, the Office of Fishing and Boating Access. So this is a dual project in that sense. So we are proposing to do some pavement removal in the entrance of the driveway and capture the runoff that we have in that area in a bioretention. And then in the next drainage area, we're going to be regrading the pavement here, replacing some of it with porous asphalt and capturing and treating it in a bioretention back in this corner. And then there is a little bit here of the boat ramp itself that we cannot capture with our practices, so that will continue to be unmanaged. And then kind of zooming in on the plans themselves, you can see in the red hatch where we are removing pavement. The total net reduction of pavement at this site is about 2,200 square feet. And then in addition, we are replacing existing pavement with porous asphalt, just shown a little bit on this slide, and then there'll be more on the next slide. So we are regrading the parking lot to change how water flows through the site. And we're also capturing the runoff from the wooded area behind the parking lot with this grass swale that will bring the flow down to the bioretention back in this corner. We are able to remove this pavement here because we are changing some of the parking spaces to car or truck parking rather than trailer. So there will still be 21 full trailer spaces at the site and 1 handicap accessible trailer space. And then there'll be 6 smaller spaces and 1 handicap accessible smaller space as well. And we're removing the excess pavement in this corner here. There is a small perforated pipe that we are bringing from bioretention 1. This will allow for drawdowns because the way that this parking lot is graded, and it was pretty challenging for overflows. Overflows from larger storms will continue to flow down the ramp, and we just didn't want water backing up or puddling in this area for very long. So this will be a slow drawdown pipe, not a large high quantity pipe. And we're also proposing an educational sign right here for the public. Following the match line, you can see the rest of the porous pavement over here. We've got more pavement reduction to kind of narrow up this driveway, and this is the bioretention here. It will take, it can manage about 1 inch of runoff that it will treat, and then overflows from larger storms will continue down the driveway to the next practice. There are also restoration components. Not only will we plant the bioretention and the swale with native plants. This is an area here that we're going to be revegetating with native species. And the goal along the pond itself is to try to reestablish a natural pond buffer rather than the sandy area that is there now. We are proposing to use large boulders to kind of demarcate where loading and unloading should take place next to the ramp. And then beyond that, the intent is to have it go back to a natural pond buffer in this area. I also want to mention that we are proposing a wooden guardrail along the edge of the parking lot, including between the parking spaces and the bioretention and all along this back space here there, so there won't be any danger of vehicles entering the bioretention or the swale. And Amy, you want to touch on our impacts?
Sure. So by nature of the project and its location, there are some, I guess, necessary impacts when we're repaving an existing parking lot. If you recall, the jurisdictional areas encompass a good portion of the parking lot. Not so much of the drive area, but the parking lot itself. So then we also have, as Michelle mentioned, there's restoration plantings along about 190 linear feet of the inland bank. And then within the bank itself, so just slightly below that ordinary high water. And then our buffer zone plantings are all, restorative in nature, and that includes both some of the ones where the pavement is being removed, as well as some of the bioretention area plantings, which will all be native. And then specifically breaking down the 0 to 75 foot buffer to bank where we have the porous pavement, that will be a reduction in impervious surfaces, and then an additional 3,100 square feet of porous pavement reduction and or removal of pavement to accommodate the bioretention area. So overall, Michelle said that there's about 3,650 square feet of this pavement removal or replacement with the porous pavement or plantings. As for the estimated habitat, I mentioned before that we have habitat, and that extends even further inland from the edge of the pond. There's a small amount of work within the resource area, and those are some of those plantings that we mentioned before. And then outside of the resource areas is about 3/4 of an acre of work that is occurring and covers all the runs the gamut of the repaving of existing pavement, replacement pavement with porous pavement, the bioretention area, and the plantings. So these are all sort of statistics that Natural Heritage also looks at when they do their review. And as I mentioned, we should be hearing from them on or before April 5th. Anything next? And then I guess that the real take-home message here is that all of the impacts that are occurring in jurisdictional areas are intended to improve the existing conditions, particularly the water quality within the pond itself, which is already an impaired water body. And with the improvements to the water quality, then you also would result in a healthier system in and around the pond, specifically in this watershed, this portion of the watershed that will then, affect or improve the conditions overall in the pond. Next. And I guess that's it. We'll turn it back over for questions.
Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Amy, did you give any more thought to, Michelle, you can stop sharing. Thank you. Was there any thought given on how to protect those bioretention basins with maybe some post and rail fencing or something like that? So when and if we ever get snow again, the plows don't push the snow into the bioretention basins, or somebody doesn't inadvertently drive into one while they're trying to maneuver their boats in a crowded parking lot.
At the lower one that's in the larger part of the parking lot, there is a guardrail there.
Okay, perfect.
And as I understand it, I guess they don't actually plow this parking lot. I guess if you think about it, it's boating and not many people.
That was my other question. Is this parking lot actually plowed by the state? So that answered my question. So that one does have a guardrail. Okay, sorry.
Yes, there's a guardrail proposed all along that lower parking lot, as well as the driveway for that upper bio as well.
Okay, great. We must have missed that. And my other question who maintains I guess this is gonna be a question for possibly the state, who maintains the bioretention basins on state land? I understand the bioretention basins will be maintained on the town's property by the town. What about on the state land? I'm assuming that's the state?
That will be the responsibility of the state, and Doug Cameron is with us if he wants to speak any more into that.
Doug, if you would like to speak, please use the raise hand function. Thank you. I saw it go up and then to go down. Mr. Chairman, I'm promoting Douglas Cameron. He's with the Office of Voting Safety and Access. I don't know the exact title of the agency.
Here we go. Hi, everyone. I'm Doug Cameron.
Hello.
I'm the Director for the Office of Fishing and Boating Access, and also play the role as Chief Engineer for the Department of Fish and Game. This is our boating access facility in our Southeast District of the Division of Fish and Wildlife is the managing authority responsible for maintenance at this location, and will be responsible for the upkeep of the access, including the proposed improvements that are before you tonight.
Okay, thank you. And my only other question or concern, Amy, was the plantings proposed along the pond shore and whether the shoreline and whether or not Natural Heritage was going to have any concerns with those. So I guess we'll have to wait.
Right, we'll have to wait for them.
We'll have to wait till Natural Heritage weighs in.
I did notice that the commission staff report had a recommendation against the use of switchgrass, and I guess I'm just curious on that one.
We've just seen a lot of restoration projects, and the switchgrass is very, very aggressive and tends to outcompete any other plant. That's what we've noticed on some of the coastal bank restoration projects that we've seen switchgrass on. So we've just been a little cautious using switchgrass because it does tend to like outcompete quite a few of the smaller plants.
Okay.
And I can give you examples of areas where you can go and look at it, Amy.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I think it's only part of one of the seed mixes that are proposed. And so we'll wait to hear what Natural Heritage has to say about that.
Okay.
Thanks.
That's all, Mr. Chairman, although, Amy, we're still probably going to want you to take the switchgrass out.
Okay, well, we can rethink our seed mixes as necessary.
Perfect. Thank you. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Ms. Bergeron.
Thank you. Quick question for Amy and Michelle. It was mentioned in the narrative that there might be some future invasive species work taking place on the property. Is anything proposed during this current planting plan that's before us?
Yes, we are proposing to remove invasives by hand within the limit of work. There aren't a lot within our limit of work. There are more invasives kind of off to the edges of the site, but any that are found, and Amy can speak to the species that she saw out there, but we would want to remove that as we're restoring the area.
Yeah, there weren't many. A few multiflora rows, not real big ones, and by hand we mean with gloves. And then there's some further afar, there's a bunch of gray willow that's under consideration, but there may have been a little bit of bittersweet, Michelle, but there aren't a lot there, which is impressive.
How big are the willows, Amy?
Well, the ones that are off-site, like out of our limit of work, they're pretty substantial.
Yeah, they're not part of this project.
Okay, so it's just smaller saplings or seedlings.
Yeah, a seedling or
that are coming
something.
in.
If we see them and they're in the planting zone, we get them out of there.
Thank you.
And that's all I have, and just a quick hi to Jordan. All right, thank you.
All right, commissioner comments, Betsy.
I have no questions, but I have a couple of comments. First of all, Jordan, this is a nice project that you guys have put together. And for Doug, they're restocking when I was down there the other day. So your guys are definitely go out to there. And Amy and Michelle, while I'm really impressed with the planting plan that you have, I said to the gentleman who was stocking the fish, I said, this is why I'm here. This is what they're asking to do. And I said, what do you think about this area that looks like a beach? I said, do you think they're planning to put plants there? And he goes, oh, he said, that's packed. That's like Coney Beach in the summer. So I guess I have my doubts that the plants are gonna live there for too long. But it's a nice project anyway, and certainly dealing with the stormwater will be of considerable help for the water quality. That's my only comment.
All right,
Betsy.
Courtney.
I have nothing to add to Betsy's comments.
All right, Maury.
I just had two comments. That it was a great project and I'm glad to see this being taken care of. But the second one, is there any schedule of maintenance for the porous pavement? So it maintains itself as porous?
Yes, we have a full O&M plan that we put together, including schedule for the porous pavement.
I figured. Thank you. And nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Bye-bye. That's all.
All right, Steve.
And thank you all for this project. I have to admit to it being my first time there. So it was pretty exciting. I'm glad to hear it's busy in the summertime. It certainly isn't in the winter, but it's this project's great. Thank you.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Joe Chrisman says Friends of Shumet Pond, FOAP, support APCC and the approval of this project. Thank you for your time and consideration. Doug just letting us know he was here. And someone named Mona Nair saying the beach is not packed in the summer. And that is the only public comment we have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
And there's nobody with their hands raised, so. We will need
All
a
right.
continuance for natural heritage comments, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Amy, you said you anticipate them on the 5th, so what about the 7th? Oh, I have continued to the 17th. Oh, another pond project, Cedar Lake. Amy, with the 17th work, we're not meeting on the 10th.
Yeah, that would be fine.
Perfect.
So at the request of the applicant, I'll make a motion to continue this till April 17th.
Bird second.
All right. And is that all we're waiting on is the national heritage?
Yes.
Correct.
So that should be pretty brief then. All right. Any other questions or comments? We have a motion and a second to continue this until April 17th. We're voting for the continuance. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury.
Carlo Hawk's Eye.
Steve.
Bye bye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until April 17th. Thank you all.
Thank you. Nice to see you again,
Thank you.
Michelle.
Good night, everyone.
See you.
We miss you,
Thank
Michelle.
you.
We
I
do
almost said
appreciate
I.
We'll
We have
include you
opening.
next time.
We have opening, Michelle.
Have a good evening.
it. Night, Amy. We do miss
All right.
Michelle.
It's like old home day. All right. Next up are continued requests for hearing under notice of intent. Mark Romaine, 45 Toby Lane, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to renovate the existing house, construct a detached garage and parking court, install a pool, upgrade the existing sewage disposal system to an IA system, and install mitigation plantings. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Angela Tanner up from Crawford Land Management, and Mike Versalli from Falmouth Engineering to present their project.
All right, and for the record, the quorum includes all of us present. Mike, are you starting or is Angela?
I am, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Thank
You're up.
you, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. For the record, Michael Borselli, Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant along with Angela Tanner from Crawford Land Management. This is a continued hearing. We took into consideration issues and questions and comments from the first hearing. We made plan revisions, and there are a couple still outstanding bookkeeping matters that we need to address. So what we'd like to do is just present the plan and then ask for one hopefully final continuance so we can respond to the final staff comments or any previous staff comments that we didn't respond to, that if we did do that, we didn't do it intentionally. So with that, I'd like to share my screen with your permission, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I guess the major plan revision was in response to concerns raised by staff about how we had calculated the impervious surfaces. We had initially calculated the impervious surfaces such that we included the entire gravel driveway that's shown with this dashed line as existing impervious that we could modify and take credit for, when in fact that had been modified sometime between 2014 and the present, and we were rightfully so told we couldn't take credit for some of these areas that where gravel had been placed without permission. So we went back to, since we had done the project originally for a dock project previously, we went back and recalculated the driveway as what used to be, which is shown here with the two different shadings, one representing in the B zone, one representing in the A zone. So all that is to say that the impervious surfaces were all recalculated. We took away additional proposed impervious surfaces and reallocated and added additional mitigation plantings so that the revised plan, when you take all that into account, added more mitigation planting and reduced impervious surfaces so that we could meet your regulations. In addition to that, Crawford Land Management made changes to the planting plan in response to your issues or questions and comments. And Angela will present her plan to you. Some of the final staff comments that are going to require me to continue so I can add them to the plan, but I would like to just touch on them so you can have answers to them tonight. Included the volume of estimated fill to regrade this area between the retaining wall and the pool. We've calculated that area. There's an average regrading in here between 18 and 24 inches. In the volume at 150 cubic yards. That'll be added to the plan. There's some AC units that exist on the back side of this house. They're fastened to the house by brackets that aren't on the ground, but we can show them on the plan. There's two trees that I did not show on my plan, but I believe they're on the Crawford Land Management plan. One is here, it's a cherry, and one is here in this area, which is an oak. So those will be added to my plan for consistency. There was a request to calculate the area of structure that's within the velocity zone so that you have a record of that. And if you look at this plan closely, you'll see there is part of the proposed porch that is in a velocity zone. It's in the Falmouth velocity zone, and that's, I'm circling that here. It's basically 8 by 7.5. It's basically 60 square feet. And also there's a rinse station that evidently was constructed, and we've taken into consideration that impervious surface, but not counted it. But we're asking for that to remain, and your staff asked that to be calculated into the overall structure in velocity zone. So between the rinse station and this porch, the total, and this will be on the plan, I'm just letting you know that we responded, we saw the question, and I'm just thought I'd give you the information. There's 80 square feet of added structure, and we understand you have a limitation of additions of no more than 200 square feet. Staff picked up on the fact that there's a crushed stone, it's about 3 foot wide, crushed stone area here, and there's a small storage box. And the comment was that that wasn't accounted for in the impervious surfaces, so we have to either account for it or remove it. I'm going to consult with the client and see what he'd like to do, and we'll revise the plan accordingly. It'll show on here as either to be removed, or it'll be shown as to remain, and then we would add more mitigation for it. Yet to be determined, but that was raised in the staff report. And I think that sums it up on some final bookkeeping punch list items you folks had and their staff mentioned in the staff report. So we're going to revise our plan. We're going to listen tonight and see if there's anything else. So we're going to revise the plan, and I intend to request a continuance to April 3rd. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Angela, and then we're both here for questions.
Hi, I'm Angela Tanner. I'm here with Crawford Land Management, and with your permission, I'd like to share my screen.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I'll try to zoom in a little bit here. So as Mike said, we reconfigured, reduced the proposed hardscape in order to and increased the amount of mitigation to meet somewhere in the middle with the requirements. And we listened to the suggestion to remove the sweet fern from the planting palette. So the mitigation plantings are basically the same species as were previously proposed. There's a nice mix, nice biodiverse mix. We've kept them away from the existing trees a little bit. We added some mitigation over on this side where it's all just lawn underneath the trees right now. And in reconfiguring the hardscape, we were actually able to save a tree that was previously proposed to be removed over by the parking area. And so we kept the proposed replacement trees at 8. The proposed removals are at 6. And I know that I did meet with Jen and Alyssa to talk about some of the locations of the proposed mitigation as well as the tree locations. And it sounds like we still need to do a little bit of work on finalizing those proposed tree replacement locations to make sure that they're not infringing on the existing oak and other items. So I'm happy to continue to tweak the locations of those. And I think that sums up the changes. I can be available for questions.
Thanks, Angela. You can stop sharing. But you know how it works. Somebody's probably going to ask you to show it back again.
That's fine.
Ken,
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Start with you, Angela. Thank you for meeting with us. Thank you for the changes that were made. Just a couple of trees on the site. We still have concerns with one of them being placed inside like a grove of cedars. So can either meet on the site or show you the pictures in the office might help with some of our concerns. And then Mike, thank you for addressing the questions. We just really wanted to see that information on the plan.
Yep, happy to do that.
Okay, great. Those are all, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
all right. Ms. Bergeron,
I have nothing further. Thank you.
all right. Commissioner comments or questions? Courtney,
No comments or questions.
all right. Maury,
No comments or questions.
Steve,
No questions. Thank you for your work on this.
Betsy,
I have a question. I think you both did a great job with revision. I mean, there are a few little tweaks, but I'm just curious, Mike, was this an old hunting cottage? I mean, it's right on the pond.
Yeah, well, it was an older home owned by the Rice family, and the Rices owned a few properties in here. That's why that driveway that I showed crossing the lot, they used to own a lot adjacent to it, so they used a common driveway, and they had like summer home kind of camp homes. I don't know when they were built, but yes, that house is built in a position to take advantage of the view, and it's very close to the pond, but it kind of like looks out around a corner out to Vineyard Sound and beyond. That's why it was oriented like that.
Yeah, well, I remember when I was first on Concom years ago, we had another like camp on Bourne's Pond that the house was actually in the water. You remember that one, Maury or Courtney?
Yep, and there was one on Sunfish as well that was in the
Well,
water.
that's right. Yeah. Anyway, that was all. Thanks. Thanks, Jamie.
Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat regarding this project.
All right.
Does that date
Mike,
work?
I requested April 3rd.
There's nothing in the public chat, and Mike is requesting April 3rd for the continuance date.
Does that work for you?
The 3rd? I won't.
Yeah.
I mean, Alyssa, does it work for you? You'll be running the meeting that evening with Fallon. We're not very busy on the 3rd. We have, I think, 6 RDAs. We don't have any new notices.
Well, then we'd love to see both of you on the 3rd. I'll make a motion to continue this hearing till April 3rd.
Third, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this till April 3rd. Any other questions or comments? All right, we're voting on the continuance. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Third, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Hello, Hawks Eye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until April 3rd. Thank you, Mike. Thank you,
We'll try to
Angela.
come up with some curveballs for Alyssa that night, but.
Careful what
Oh,
you
I
wish
try
for.
it, Mike.
I'll do that once. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Have a good
won't.
one.
All right. Next up, Matthew and Cara Rinaldi, 386 Edgewater Drive East, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to raise, RAZE, the existing single-family dwelling and construct a new single-family dwelling with a deck, upgrade the existing sewage disposal system, conduct invasive species management, and install mitigation and restoration plantings. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Mike is still with us to present his second project of the evening, and I have also promoted Teresa Sprague and Jenny Goldleaf of Blue Flax Design.
All right, and for the record, the quorum includes everyone present tonight. Mr. Borselli, you're up, sir.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Mike Borselli, Falmouth Engineering, representing the applicant. Gonna share my screen with your permission.
Absolutely, sir.
Thank you. Again, this is a continued hearing. We listened to feedback from the commission and your staff. And we've made revisions to the plan. The bulk of the revisions are related to the plans by Blue Flax Design. But I made a minor revision of my plan, and that was to remove the dog security fence. So the dog security fence is no longer on my plan. There's a revision on my plan that indicates that. I also know that Denise Benoli submitted revised architectural plans that just make the area of enclosure on her plan consistent with the area of enclosure shown on my plan. So that sums up the changes on my plan, and there are a few more detailed things related to the landscape design and the restoration area that I will turn over to Jenny and Teresa from Blue Flax Design, and I'm here to answer questions.
Thanks, Mike.
Jenny Goldley from Blue Flax. May I have permission to share? Is that working for folks?
Yes, it is, Jenny. Can you just speak up just a little bit more, please?
Yep,
Thank you.
absolutely. Thank you. So I'm going to share the changes in the proposed plans for restoration and mitigation. Most of these are going to be very familiar from the staff notes. All of the changes that we've made were the committee's request at the previous hearing. Mike already mentioned the fence that was removed along the southwest property line. The major change is replacing smaller shrubs with larger ones, primarily replacing sweet fern and meadow sweet with 18 additional beach plums and 15 additional bayberries. But as a result, as the staff noted, the total plant count has gone down a small amount, but the area is covered more densely with those larger plants. We also increased the plant sizes as requested. We've removed the secondary path to the association area, and we're showing that entire area as planted with additional bayberry and beach plum. We've moved the sort of northmost Tupelo in from the property line, and we saw the staff note, and we can definitely shift it further in while keeping it away from the 50, so we can submit that additional revision. On this version, we're showing a vista corridor, and once the house is under construction, we can come back with changes if we need to, and meet with staff and update the plan further. But this is where we're anticipating the view from the kitchen window in consultation with Denise, the architect. The path that we're showing is shifted slightly from the previous plan, and it's lined with smaller shrubs, Durvella, so that we are planning not to prune them and that they can naturalize in the future.
Could you speak up just a little bit more? I'm sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry. I wonder if my mic is still turned down or something like that.
Maybe zoom just a bit.
Let's see.
Thank you.
How's that? Is that in a little too far?
Better.
Okay. The other minor change I wanted to comment on was that also per request, we updated the key, which is now all the way over here, to show the hatch for the backrest that we're suggesting to be allowed to be regenerated. I think those are all of our changes. Let me know if I can reiterate anything a little more loudly. Yeah, I think those are everything that we wanted to comment on. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny. You can stop sharing. Jen.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you for those changes, Jenny. And I think the only concern we still have is the placement of the proposed Tupelo. And if that could be moved a little bit more off the property line, that would be great. I think that's all we have. Thank you for the changes.
Great, thank you.
All right. Ms. Bergeron.
Thank you. I just had a clarification about that, Jenny. It wasn't the one closest to the house, but actually the one closest to the salt marsh. What the plan doesn't show is right over the property line. There's a pitch pine, so it's kind of creating a little bit more of a canopy. We just try to allow when trees are required to be planted that they're not under such a dense canopy, just to give them like their best chance of growing. So just if that one could come in a smidge, couple feet, I think it would make a difference.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Teresa, I didn't mean to skip over you. Do you have anything you'd like to add before we go to commission comments?
No. Hi, Teresa Sprague with Blue Flex Design. Alyssa, thank you for clarifying which tree it was. I was just going through the photos and looking at the trees along that property line. So yes, I think we can pull that in, that no problem at all. I think we were thinking it was the northernmost tree that you guys were talking about, or the one closest to the house. So thank you. I think with that, I have nothing else to add. No additional questions. Thanks.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I think we can condition that.
Okay. All right, commissioner comments, Maury.
I'm unmuting, sorry. No comments at this time. The tree was the issue and they fixed everything else. Thank you.
All right. Steve.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are there any plans for outdoor shower, heat pumps, other kinds of things? I noticed that the building has been moved from 20 feet from the abutting side to about 11. There doesn't seem to be any room left on that would be the north side.
Yeah, I can answer that. Any air conditioning units or heat pumps or things like that, because this is in a flood zone, need to be elevated, and they're going to be incorporated into the footprint of the house, either on the roof or in a place that's where they'd be mounted.
Okay. This family's owned the house since September of 21, I think. And a number of trees were taken down. Besides, and I agree, the former owner did a great deal of work in the backyard. But they took trees down along the side of the property and then moved the house closer. It was probably before your time, Michael, I'm sure. But it did occur. And it was shortly after they acquired the properties. So I'm just a little worrisome. There's still some, you can see the stumps. And I want to make sure that there are no utilities on that side of the property.
You mean on the side where it's close to the property line?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
So
to my knowledge, there's nothing proposed on that side.
Okay. I'd like that to be a condition.
I'll make note of that, Steve.
So Mike, if you're going to incorporate them, like you said, possibly on the roof, for example, I mean, they can't go underneath because you need to maintain that clearance, right? But there's probably not enough room underneath. So if you're going to put them on a cantilever or something, that would have to be an amendment.
Yes, I'll work with Denise Bonoli on that. And if there is some sort of projection or something like that that we didn't anticipate that isn't within on the roof and in the footprint, we'll come back for an amendment.
Okay, just so we're clear, that's all.
Mm-hmm.
Betsy.
I have no questions or comments, although it's nice to see some new people like Jenny are being introduced into the group. You must make Teresa happy.
That's very kind. I certainly hope so.
All right, Courtney.
I have no comments.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat for this project, Mr. Chairman.
So I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Third, second.
All right. Perfect. Our first closure tonight. Woo-hoo. All right. Any other questions or comments? Any more input? We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. We're voting to close the hearing. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Hello, Hawks Eye.
Steve.
And I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have
Thanks
a good
very
evening.
much.
Thanks,
Have a
good
good
night.
evening.
Good night.
Good night.
All right. Next up, the next three have been previously continued, which brings us to continued requests for a hearing under an enforcement order. First up, Falmouth Yacht Club, Inc., 0 Clinton Avenue, map and parcel number 46B-002-020-000H. Falmouth, Mass. Unpermitted placement of filter fabric and trap rock over the existing riprap. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this was continued to tonight. I am working with Cape and Islands. I have seen a conceptual plan that they'll be coming in with to, one, repair that area that was damaged by the storm and to kind of make it a little bit more resilient. So Cape and Islands has requested and asked for a continuance until the end of April. They anticipate filing a notice of intent for all the repairs. They need to work with the town engineer. So they'll be working with our DPW department to come up with some solution over there. So they have asked for a little bit more time to be able to consult Jim McLaughlin with the our town engineer. And I told them it was okay. I hope you
Wow.
don't mind.
That's it then. No, the work that they did, that we're questioning, is there any problems with it staying the way it is for the next
I
4 or
mean,
5 weeks?
it's not ideal, but it's stable right now. I mean, it's not,
Okay, that
yeah.
should have been my word. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I have concerns if we get hit with a really big storm, it might, that might go everywhere, but I mean, they are coming back with almost a cap in that area. There's a revetment, then there was the fence along the road and the sand dune had built up. That's where all that rock is. They did extend it, so Cape and Islands does agree it needs to be removed and it will be removed. We just have to figure out how to protect the road and do something along the top of that revetment. But I have seen a plan.
Okay. What date are they looking for?
He said by the end of April, so I would go with May 1st.
All right, Maury.
I just had one question. Have they thought about something? I went down and looked at it, something like gabions or something like that. That is a little more porous and.
I think I'm still working with Cape and Islands on the design. Definitely they're gonna have to remove some of it that extends beyond that existing revetment. They lost a lot of sand in these last storms. I mean, the grade of that beach came way down. Because at first we were concerned that they had added revetment stone. And then when we looked at it really closely and we compared the photos from when we were out there for the beach nourishment project, we could tell the tops of each stone, and it was down about 2 feet. I mean, it was exposed, but we could pick out each stone, so we knew that wasn't. It was just the top with the filter fabric. And then they did provide us with some pictures that show that the road was about to be undermined. So yes, it shouldn't have been done. Yes, the town should have been consulted. The town's the one that called me. Highway superintendent's the one that called me. We reached out to the contractor, they stopped, and we have been in touch with the yacht club. And like I said, I have been They have retained Cape and Islands Engineering, and I have seen a plan and have been consulting with Matt Costa on a repair.
Yeah, it's going to be a big project for them. Thank you.
All right. Anything else? Anybody else?
I'll make a motion at the request of the applicant. We'll continue this to May 1st.
Correct.
Bird second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to continue this until May 1. Any other questions or comments? All right, we're voting on the continuance. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury?
Harlow Hawks Eye.
Steve?
Got nine.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until May 1st. Next up, Arthur and Helen Chillian, trustees, 135 Silver Beach Avenue, North Falmouth, Mass. Unpermitted removal of vegetation from a wetland. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This is at 135 Silver Beach Ave. As you can see in the staff report, it's the property next to the pump station. I am going to promote Alex Bijan. And he is one of the property owners or a trustee of the estate. Not quite sure the term. We received a call, as it says in your staff report, that there had been some clearing, or we went down and clearly the area had been cleared. I mean, there's no denying that. You look at the pictures from previous pictures from 23 to now, the area was cleared. We stopped the work and sent a letter to the property owner. The letter was returned to us, so we ended up tracking down an heir to the property. We've received several complaints about the work that was done, and we feel the area should be restored. We have a plan from 2015 that delineates the wetland on the property, and you can clearly tell by the plant matter and the species that were on the property that it is wet. So we would recommend to the commission that they issue an enforcement order and require the area to be restored.
Okay. Ms. Bergeron?
Can you hear us?
Yes, we can, Mr. Bijan.
Okay, can we just give you a little bit of a history of what's going on with the property and what we have been told in the past? Before we
Sure, go ahead. Your meeting.
Before we enforce any orders?
Okay, I'd actually like to speak about this.
Okay, this is my wife.
I'm sorry, yes, because, my name's Karen Bejan and I'm the daughter of Arthur and Helen. And my mom passed away 2 years ago. So right now I'm actually reading something because I'm not a Zoom person, but we're selling the cottage so I can settle the estate with, my siblings. And my parents purchased a house in 1975. And I don't know a lot about the history of the house. I don't want to go into too much about that. But at some point about 1980, my father was offered to buy that little parcel of land. Okay, it was part of a whole parcel. The other neighbor on the other side bought one half. We bought the other half. My mother at the time went down. I just want to let you know why we did what we did. Okay. My mother went down to town hall, and she was told that Mrs. Chillian, you can build on that property as long as the house is raised. Okay, so that's all we knew. I'm not a land scientist. Okay, I grew up in that house as a teenager. It was part of our property. Okay, the other half of the land is now the pumping station. And the town came in and they mowed that side of the property down. They put the pumping station, they put the concrete in. So I'm seeing this. There's also 2 houses behind us. So that little piece of property is landlocked. So
Okay.
what I'm trying to say is, I mean, seems a little nonsensical to me that, you know, you have this little piece of property that's landlocked around other houses and it's wetlands. So I don't know that it's wetlands. It was my idea. We're selling the property. We want the property to look nice. And I said, why don't we just kind of clear it out so that people, prospective buyers will see, you know, how big the property is, where the property lines are. That's what happened. There was no intention of, you know, mowing down, digging out any wetlands. I just want to let you know that whatever happened, you know, was a mistake.
Okay, let me just show you a little bit on this. I don't know if you can see this or not, but it kind of gives you a little bit of a perspective of where our house is in reference to the pumping station. This is the pumping station, right? I don't know if you can see it. This is the pumping station right here. This is the area, is 20 feet, and the pumping station is bigger than our house. I mean, it's huge. I mean, our house is, this gives you a pretty good idea. It's just a cottage. Okay, and we ended up clearing this area here, and look how big the pumping station is. It's a monstrosity. And they came in with bulldozers. They leveled this land. They had no regard for conservation at that time or wetlands because they had to do what they wanted to do. And all of a sudden, you know, this monstrosity got built. Okay. All we did was we just cleared the area so we can sell our property.
Yeah, that's it.
Like
We have
any,
no
like
intention
any
of
other,
building or anything.
any other
Excuse
person
me,
here.
Yeah.
I mean,
talking
any
over
of
each other.
the,
Time. You just cleared all the land so you can see that pumping station better. Got it. Okay, so you got a pumping station so you don't have to have a septic system. Excellent. So
Yes.
how is this lot landlocked if it's on the street?
well, if you look behind it, I don't know if I got some more pictures here, but
We're not
Hold
gonna
on
be
a
able
second.
to
I don't
see
know if
that
you can see
it's
very
lit.
closely here. There's a house. There's a house
Directly behind us.
right behind us, and there's a house behind the pumping station.
You're not answering my
Okay.
question. That lot fronts on Silver Beach Avenue, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Is the house and the lot one piece?
Yes.
It is one
You
piece.
sell it?
This is how it looks right here. Hold on.
It's just a small, I call it more of a little camp house, honestly.
That's the house. There's the lot. I mean, the house, when my father-in-law acquired that property, they told them that this property is not big enough to build a house. So
Obviously.
don't think you're going to be able to put another house on this property. But should you decide in the future that you want to change your house or expand to it or build it, you have room to do that because that lot was a buildable lot as long as it's raised.
The house is raised.
The house is raised. So that's all we're doing. We're not looking at putting another house there, but we're looking at maybe, you know, if we want to go 10 feet to one side or whatever, we just want to be able to do that. Or some prospective buyer able to do that.
That's not gonna happen, Mr. Bejan, because that is a wetland. It was cleared, it needs to be restored, and it has a 50-foot protective buffer. So that house will not be able to be expanded towards that wetland area.
Why not?
Because it is a wetland that needs to be restored, and it has a 50-foot no-touch buffer, and our regulations state that you cannot move any closer than the primary structure to a resource area.
Yeah. Well, I don't see what determines whether it's a wetland.
All
I mean,
the plants
I
you
don't
cut
see it
down,
being-
sir.
I don't see it being a wetland.
Hydrology.
It's a debatable point. We've went to the town hall.
No, it
we've been
isn't.
to numerous places to ask, is this wetland? No one has come up with any conclusive evidence
That's true.
that
That's
say
why you
that it's
hire an
wetland.
engineer.
Excuse me,
Okay.
Mr. Bejan, did you come to the town hall and consult the conservation department before you hired the landscaping company to cut those down to determine if that was a wetland? No, you did not. There
We
is a
didn't.
plan from 2015 that you provided in an email to us that shows the wetland on your property. Mr. Chairman, may I share my screen?
Please.
Thank you. This is a plan that Mr. Bijan provided us in his own email.
Yep.
Oops, I'm getting there. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
This is Crystal Spring. Down this way is Silver Beach. This is Mr. Bijan's property or family property. This is the wetland delineated by Jack
20 feet,
Farah.
that upper right-hand corner.
Excuse me, sir, please don't
Yeah.
interrupt.
No, I'm not. I'm just telling you, it's that upper right-hand corner right there.
Sir, he didn't trespass all the way on your property. He just grabbed this. It does not mean the wetland ends there. Okay? And then it would have a 50-foot buffer this way, but the wetland came down that way. So again, Mr. Chairman, the staff's recommendation is to require a full restoration of the wetland, the buffer, what was disturbed. You can tell by the staff report, it was a pretty densely vegetated area. It did have some invasive Phragmites in it, but Phragmites is indicative to wet areas. And that is where the staff stands.
Okay. Ms. Bergeron.
I have no additional comments at this time. Thank you. Excuse me. No additional comments.
No.
Okay. Commissioner comments. Betsy.
What happened?
Wetlands are protected. They're very specific scientific criteria that are used to identify wetlands. And I'm sure if that Jack Vaccaro was a wetland scientist, there are wetlands there. Well, I guess Jen, you went out there too, did you? Jen?
Yes, I've driven past it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So you didn't check for hydric soil.
No, you don't have to. You can see it.
Yeah, but I'm sure Jack did as he delineated it.
Oh, absolutely.
Can I just ask a question? How does a town put a pumping station on wetlands? Can anybody answer that question?
I would have to research that, ma'am. I don't know when the pumping station was built.
I would really like someone to research that, actually.
Well, we're not talking about the town's property. We're talking about your property.
Right. Well, I'm just putting it out there that the town.
I understand that the pumping
on
station.
Conservation land. That's all I'm saying.
So pretty much,
right.
so pretty much our family bought a parcel of land that was really not forthright in selling it to us, that it was an area that was conservation land that was not buildable.
I'm not sure, again, when
So
your
we've been pretty
father-in-law.
much been paying taxes and maintaining an area that was really nothing for us, pretty much. It's pretty much what
Okay.
it boils down to.
Okay, whatever.
But
Courtney.
I don't have anything to add. I mean, if it's wetland that is delineated as the map shows, it has to be restored.
Okay. Maury.
Same as Courtney. Thank you.
Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a chance to go out and look at it today because it was hard to understand. First of all, the block's a mess. There's two other construction sites that are totally denuded of vegetation. I'm sure that we're addressing that as well. And I couldn't figure out where the lot line was. As you said, we didn't have an engineering plan. So part of that cleared lot is the town's lot, or does the town own half of that lot?
There is a plot plan that the Bijans did, Steve. I can show you that as well, but it's not a wetland delineation survey. It's just strictly a plot plan, which I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. and Mrs. Bijan, you had done to determine where your lot line was.
Right. Well, we had to, because we needed those.
Yeah, the lot line is right to the next to the pumping station. There's a stake there and a stake in the back. We had it demarcated and plotted out.
Okay, well, it's clearly been completely cleared. I just
So, I mean, just.
There's no doubt about
just
it. I had to
maintain
go
the
and
area.
see it. Sir,
Yeah.
could I just finish, please?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I had to go out and see it. So I walked around. The wetland is hard to delineate by foot, but in back of that is the marshland, as it is in back of the other two construction sites. So I'm not sure where. Apparently, it's delineated here. It's there. That's what it is. It doesn't look as wet as the marsh.
All right.
So can I ask a question? So what's the
Yes, sir.
status of building in that area or extending our property
Can't be done.
or extending our house, say, for instance? So we're in the process of selling our property. What will that do to the potential buyer that's coming in there?
How old is that
Will
plan
he-
you have?
Will he be able to expand a little bit on that lot?
He would be able to expand potentially over the existing deck, but not expand the deck any closer to the wetland area. They basically have the footprint of the existing house. Because you would need a 3-to-1 mitigation, so any expansion of that house would require a 3-to-1 mitigation, which means if you expanded the house by, let's say, 500 square feet, you would have to put 1,500 square feet of plantings around, which I don't believe you have the room to do that once that wetland area is restored to where it should be. Once the wetland in the little buffer zone that was removed is restored, I don't know, we would have to determine if there was room on the lot to expand. And when I say expand, I mean increase the impervious surface.
Right. I just want to know what to tell other prospective buyers who come in. Because as it is, we've had several people that have been interested in purchasing it, and they have been they've been very reluctant to put down any offers because
the enforcement order is gonna run.
I mean, we've been in Falmouth for 50 years, and I'm not looking for trouble. I'm just trying to make my life easy. We just want to sell our property and move on with our life. And I just want to say something to the new buyers that do come in. What can I tell them? I guess I could tell them they can expand maybe 20% of the house. Because the building department told us that we can go, as much as 20% of the existing house. So we can make it bigger a little bit towards that land, but.
You're not going towards the land, sir. You cannot expand towards the wetland. And the wetland is going to be restored, so there will be an active enforcement order on this property. And the wetland will need to be restored by a date certain.
Well, nature will take care of that, I think, because it will just grow back. Nothing was really.
We are going to
in that
issue,
area.
or the board is going to determine whether they issue an enforcement order. And regardless if the area goes back, sir, you will have an active enforcement order on this property. And we will make sure that it's restored in accordance with our enforcement order. And if we need to pursue that legally, we will.
No, it will be done. Not a problem.
Yeah.
Whatever you need, it will be done. Like I said, there was no malintent. We didn't know.
Okay.
I'm not a land scientist. I don't know these things. You're experts. I'm not. It'll be
Okay.
restored.
So, Ms. Beaton, this is what the staff is going to recommend.
Right.
Is that the area be restored. So what that means is you'll need to go back to the surveyor that you hired, and they'll need to hire a wetland scientist to go delineate that wetland. Then a restoration plan will need to be submitted to this board. We will determine if that restoration plan is sufficient. And then that restoration plan will need to be implemented. And this will probably all happen in the next couple of months.
Right. Well, would have to be, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there'll be monitoring requirements to make sure that this area remains a wetland habitat.
Okay.
Now, after that is done, if an applicant wants to come in and propose something with the house, at that time, we will deal with the house.
Right.
Whether or not the house will be able to be expanded, I don't know.
Right.
We would
Okay.
have to see a
Well,
plan.
absolutely. And we have no intention of expanding any house, but we need to be able to tell prospective buyers what they can expect. So, it's good that we have these answers.
And we
Thank you.
will bullet it out for you. We will issue an enforcement order and we will make sure that it is very clear of what is expected of either yourselves or a potential buyer.
Okay, that's fair. Thank you.
Betsy, you had your hand up?
I was just going to say, if any of the engineers in town who do, you've been listening to this hearing, right?
Yeah.
So the engineers that present to us, either they know or somebody in their office, or they hire somebody to do wetlands delineations. So they would know.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
And be able to guide you
right.
into what could be done.
Okay.
All right, what are we looking at, Jen?
Well, again, the staff would recommend issuing an enforcement order, requiring the restoration of the parcel. I guess we could, since there is a draft plot plan or a draft plot plan done, that part of the surveying is complete, so it shouldn't be that part of a stretch to get a survey crew out there to delineate the wetland and place that on the plan. Once that's done, we could have them submit a formal restoration plan by a restoration expert, and then implementation. It just depends on what timeline the board wants to follow. Like I said, the base plan is done. I'm looking at it right now. It was done in January of 2024.
Okay,
So
that was the
given-
one done by Jack Vaccaro?
No, this was done by, this was just a plot plan. They did not look at resource areas, although the floodplain is on this plan, so.
It's the one that Jack Vaccaro,
No, he did the one next door.
He did the one off of Crystal Springs. I'm gonna share my screen again, Mr. Chairman.
oh, okay, I got it.
Do you need me to share my screen?
No,
Okay.
thank you. Okay. All right, so what's a reasonable time frame? I mean, it's a good time of year to have to start doing this. I mean, if you
Yeah.
have to start doing it, right?
I mean, I think if we're mid-March, I mean, mid-May, they should be able to have it delineated in a restoration plan submitted to the board. So I would say by May 15th to have a restoration plan with the wetland delineated and a restoration plan submitted for implementation by the middle of June. Maury, what do you think?
I think that's practical.
Okay, and you
Because
don't
there's
think
gotta be
June?
somebody out there, it's not like people aren't busy.
Okay.
So,
I mean, the house is there, there's access to water for the plants. They can do
Nursery
an
spots
above
and
ground
stuff.
irrigation. We had a really wet early summer last year, so
Yep.
I
And
don't
the
know what it'll be this year, but it should be okay.
nurseries are already open and selling.
There you go.
All right, anything else? All right,
I make a motion to issue an enforcement order with the conditions as we just discussed with Jen.
Restoration
second.
plan submitted by the middle of May, planting by the middle of June.
Yep, May 15th. Yep.
Okay,
all right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I second it.
Thank you. All right, anything else? All right, we have a motion and a second to issue an enforcement order Any other questions or comments? We're voting on the enforcement order. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have issued an enforcement order. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Bajan.
Thank you.
All right.
I'll move to adjourn.
Carlo Hawks second.
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye.
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have adjourned.